Companies like Ford, GM, Jeep, Dodge, and Ram are sending massive warning signs to the entire car market.
Stellantis posted a loss of $2.7 billion the last quarter.
And Ram's market share has already fallen by 7% just this year. And it's easy to see why that's happening. So, see, Stellantis was the company that has risen their prices the most out of any other company in the last 4 or 5 years.
As the pandemic rolled on, automakers started raising prices too. Stellantis did it much more aggressively than others.
And you can tell that the market right now is saying no. And when you have prices that increase that quickly and to that extent, well, you're going to have consumers, especially in a weak market right now, when you have $70,000, $80,000 trucks, when you have Jeeps, your regular Jeep Grand Cherokees, which were family SUVs. Now they're charging $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 for a lot of these things. And this Grand Cherokee is $80,000. If you have those kind of price points, you're going to lose market share.
After hitting a high in March 2024, shares have fallen by more than half.
And hopefully you can make it up on your margins, but now we're seeing you can't even do that. So it's a lose-lose situation right now for Stellantis. So just in the first half of this year, Stellantis has lost $2.7 billion. And just to show you the difference of what the market is right now versus what it was last year, or even 2 or 3 years before that, they had a gain of $5.6 billion. That is a massive swing to go from that much of a gain to now we're in the negative, and in the negative by $2.7 billion. Just to show you everything that's going in the car market, a weaker consumer, tighter margins, tariffs that are entering the system. We're seeing layoffs not only in the car market, but across the board. Higher auto loan delinquencies. We're seeing more negative equity in the system. All of these things are setting up for the worst case scenario for not only these manufacturers, Jeep, Dodge, Ram, GM, Ford, but for the big franchise dealers just like here and small used car dealers just like myself. And for Stellantis, they actually just had their credit rating cut by the S&P. And what they said was recovery depends on margins going up. And I can tell you that's not going to happen. What we have in the system right now, well, we have tariffs. That's going to hit margins. You have labor costs that have been going up. That's going to cut into margins. You have incentives that have to come into the market to incentivize people to actually buy their cars, meaning prices have to go down. That's going to cut into the margins. So the thing that's going to help Stellantis and improve their credit rating is the thing that they can't do right now. In the last 6 months, Stellantis has actually had a lot of layoffs. And a lot of these layoffs have been union workers, and we know what happened last year. So I can anticipate that there's going to be a lot of problems that they're going to face with the union, because it is the job of these unions to actually protect their workers. They got them this big pay increase, but here's the problem. If margins have to shrink because union workers are getting paid more, it's going to lead to layoffs. So it's kind of a counterintuitive thing that a lot of these unions actually did for their workers, where yeah, okay, they got higher wages, but it hurts the company. And when the company gets hurt, well, they actually have to lay off a lot of these workers. And another thing that's plaguing this car market right now is not just Stellantis, it's Ford also, it's GM, it's Honda, it's Toyota, and it's recalls. And they seem like they're stacking up every week. And I'm follow the car market so I can give you information here on YouTube. But it seems like every week there's a massive headline of some motor that can crater, or we have some braking system that can just automatically stop on you.
Alert for you this morning. Ford is recalling more than 500,000 vehicles because of structural issues that could increase the risk of an injury.
Or you have any kind of little electrical issue that's popping up in the car market where massive recalls are actually happening all across this car market. It seems like it's getting worse. I've never really seen it where we're having this many headlines of vehicles that are just stopping on people. That's a massive safety issue. And here's the thing, all these recalls, they cost these companies a lot of money. Warranty expense. We'll go to Ford. I always like to pick on Ford with these recalls. Warranty expense every single quarter costs them so much money. And it seems like every quarter they say, okay, yeah, this is a problem. We're doing this to fix it. And all the things that they're doing to fix it, it seems like it's making it worse. And across the car market, it seems like it's just continuing to get worse. And all these recalls keep stacking up on all these companies, and they cost them a lot of money. And the losses that we're already talking about this year, well, that's even, a lot of that's before tariffs were even in play. Now, what is expected is that tariffs are going to cost Stellantis $1.5 billion this year, and that's a massive number. And this is something that we're going to add on to the weakness that we are already seeing. See, Stellantis, it seems like they got a head start on the weakness in the market. A lot of these other car companies, now they're screaming tariffs, big problem, right? But Stellantis was already screaming problems before we had these tariffs into the market. And right now, across a lot of these manufacturers, with their rising inventories at dealership lots, it's actually increasing the discounts that they have to give to customers. Right now, you can go to a Jeep, Dodge, and Ram dealership, and you're going to get at least 10% off on most of their products if you go into the door and you're able to negotiate. This is a far cry from what we saw just in the last few years, where a lot of people were paying over sticker or they're paying MSRP for a lot of these vehicles. No more are you doing that. And it's cutting into not only the margins at these dealerships right here, it's making them to where when they're selling vehicles, they're not making as much money, but also the manufacturers are having to increase their incentives. All this costs money. And then on top of that, you're having special interest rates that a lot of these manufacturers have to pay for to get customers into vehicles. This is going to increase across the market as time goes on, as consumers get weaker, as the economy is showing some cracks. And all this cuts into margins and cuts into profits. And one place where a lot of these companies are making a lot of money is actually this right here. This the fleet, this the commercial side. I know with Ford reporting their earnings, it's a massive profit center for them. But here's the thing, on their commercial side, what they need is they need a strong economy. And what have we just recently got? Well, we've got some job numbers that don't look all that well. And if you have companies that aren't hiring, if you have companies that aren't expanding, and worse, if you have companies that are going bankrupt, if you have companies that are closing their doors, if you have companies that are pulling back their expenses, then you're not going to have companies spend a lot of money on this commercial side. And this is the breadwinner right now in a lot of these manufacturers: Ford, Jeep, Dodge, Ram, GM. And if you have these commercial vehicles not really taking the lead over the retail side, well, then you can have a lot of losses come from these companies. Ford is the easiest example here, where they're making way more money on their commercial side than they are on their retail side. We already know retail side is weak, but if you have an economy that's weakening and if you have commercial that starts slipping, well, then you're going to have Ford that is in a lot of trouble, because that's where they make a lot of money. And so we've seen some conflicting numbers that have come out of a company like Ford. They recently have reported that they have had record sales, but their dealer inventory has actually gone up. The day supply of inventory at their dealerships has gone up. So this, Brandon, this doesn't make sense, right? Well, Ford's reporting these record sales, but it seems like their dealerships aren't doing so well. But let me tell you how this works. Well, when Ford makes a sale, it's not to you or me. It's not to a regular customer. It's to, I'm standing on a Jeep, Dodge, and Ram dealership right now. It's to these dealerships. And what happens is that Ford, or companies like Jeep, Dodge, and Ram, GM, any of these companies, they can actually do something called channel stuffing, where they can give all of these dealerships a lot of inventory, and a lot of inventory that they don't want, and then they can count those as sales, because Ford, GM, Stellantis, they're all wholesalers and they sell to these dealerships. So in a lot of cases, these dealerships, when they can't hold inventory, well, if Ford needs to turn some numbers, they can continue to send them inventory. And it really puts a lot of these dealerships in between a rock and a hard place, because if you have a dealership that's struggling and they still want to get allocations down the road, well, in a lot of cases with their reps, they have to take just about whatever their reps want to send them as far as their allocations go, because if they start turning down allocations, well, if business does pick up, then they're going to be last on the list to get the highly desirable products. And it's really difficult for a lot of these dealerships. And I almost feel bad for a lot of these dealerships, specifically a lot of these Ford dealerships right now, because they're having to take vehicles that aren't moving. You think a lot of these big body Broncos, there's some of the highest days of inventory on the market right now. But if they want some of their high selling products, some high margin products, the ones that are moving on their dealerships, well, they're going to have to take a lot of that undesirable inventory from their reps so they can still be at the top of the line to be able to get some of the good inventory. And really, we're seeing it across the board in the numbers that Ford specifically is probably the worst offender of this right now, where you can go to any Ford dealership across the country right now and you can see Ford F-150s, a lot of these big body Broncos, they're actually parked in the middle of the road where people are supposed to drive through their inventory. You see it right here. I went to a dealership not that long ago that this is exactly happening, and it's a problem for a lot of these Ford dealerships, and Ford is probably not going to hold up on pumping out a lot of these F-150s and a lot of these undesirable products to these dealerships, because at the end of the day, they have to appease the stockholders. And how they do that is by, one, keeping their margins higher, which is going to limit what these dealerships can actually sell to consumers because prices are too high, and then two, they have to make sales. And when they make sales, well, that means they're pumping a lot of these vehicles to these Ford dealerships. And I've been picking a lot on Jeep, Dodge, and Ram in this video. I understand. One thing I will say positive about them, we had the regime change, right? CEO is out. That's not a new story. We have a new regime coming in, mixing up some things. One thing that they have said that I really like to hear is that, okay, yeah, maybe our prices were too high. Maybe we raised them too quickly. They have said that. That's a good thing. We haven't seen any implementations of change, any kind of big time slashes on price. We've seen more incentives, which is good, but we haven't seen any plan to really make affordable vehicles for consumers. Another thing is that they've said that they want to bring back the V8 Hemi. A lot of people have been screaming about these 6-cylinder turbos. Ford's going to it. Toyota's going to it. You're seeing a lot of GM products that have it now, and Ram went to it. And now you're seeing that, okay, we hear you. We see that the 6-cylinder turbo is not what you want. You want the big V8s. And just for them listening to their consumers, just a little bit, just a hair. It's a good thing for a manufacturer to be able to voice that kind of thing. So I will say that's a positive, but we have to see it in action. You know what? The words don't mean anything if there's no action put behind it. And this is what we want to see, and this is what I'm looking forward to seeing over the next year or 2 years or so, to see if Jeep, Dodge, and Ram can actually turn it around and make a product, one, that consumers want, and two, a product that consumers can actually afford.